Hello everyone, we are reviewing a Casio analog watch for once. Today it's the Casio MRW-200H. The MRW-200H is a 44mm watch. It's about 11.5mm thick. It's got an acrylic crystal. It's a resin watch. We've got 100 meters of water resistance, a day-date complication, and some of the worst loom I've ever seen on this watch too. We also have a rotating bezel. Now, I really like the design of this watch. It's kind of a dive watch meets a tactical watch, so it's got a lot of the hallmarks of a dive watch, but it feels a little bit sort of field watchy at the same time. A little bit unusual, looks a lot like some of Luminox's models, which I don't think is a bad thing at all. And the styling, I just really like. I think it looks pretty cool. In particular, I like the dial, I like the really big numbers, I like the chunky hands, and this is a very, very easy watch to read, even in low light conditions. So if it's not completely dark, I can read this watch really well, much better than any digital Casio. Now, like any watch, I do have a few niggles, and I'm going to point those out now to you. They are all quite minor, but I think some of these could very easily be fixed by Casio. They won't do it, but I'll point them out anyway. So firstly, I don't love the fact that the numbers on the bezel are slightly off-white and the numbers on the actual dial are white. I don't really see any reason why the numbers on the bezel can't be white, to be quite honest. A second thing I don't really like is the fact that we've got a bidirectional bezel. I don't really know why this couldn't just be a unidirectional bezel. Perhaps someone in the comments can explain to me the point of a bidirectional bezel over a unidirectional bezel. To me, it just compromises the ability to time things. So while the bezel does have a decent amount of sort of friction resistance, if I'm setting it to time anything, I could easily bump that and mess my time up. So that is one thing that I don't like on the bezel. But aside from that, the resistance on the bezel feels quite nice, just about right for what it is. The other thing that I would really like Casio to look at on this watch is to just lift the bezel 1mm up so it is higher than the crystal. At the moment, they're about the same height. If anything, the crystal may be slightly higher, and if you catch this flat on a surface, the crystal is going to take that impact and you're going to get scratches on it because it's on the acrylic. And these, having owned quite a few of these, they always get scratched up. So I think if that bezel was raised just a millimeter, we could avoid some of those scratches. I don't think Casio will do it, but I think it would be a good idea if they did. And then the last thing that I wish Casio would fix, and I think this is a very, very easy fix, is the loom is absolutely pathetic on this watch. It is rubbish. So the numbers are loomed, the hands are loomed. You can be out in this watch all day long, and at best you're getting a couple of minutes of weak loom. It really doesn't hold up at all. It's almost to the point that I think Casio shouldn't even bother putting loom on. Either put some half decent loom on or put none on. Don't give us this rubbish. It is really, really bad. You have to have a little bit of context with all this, and this is a £20 watch, and it does a lot of good stuff as well. On the wrist, I think it wears really, really well. I primarily wear watches that are under 40mm just because I've got quite small wrists, and I don't think I can get away with a lot of watches that are bigger than that. This is a bit of an exception. It doesn't wear anywhere near like a 44mm watch. Perhaps that is something to do with the dial, because the dial is quite a lot smaller and the bezel occupies quite a bit of space. I don't know, but it does look pretty good on, and I feel like I get away with this one quite well. It is also quite a comfortable watch, and 11.5mm thick. It isn't too thick. Obviously, it's not the slimmest watch in the world, but it doesn't feel like I've got a huge watch hanging off my wrist. And partly that is to do with the weight as well. It's a very light watch, obviously, with it being pretty much all resin. There's no real weight there either. So would I recommend the Casio MRW-200H as a watch? Absolutely. Even though it has got a few flaws that I think are relatively easily corrected. I'd love to see it with a unidirectional bezel. I'd love to see it with better loom. The other things I can take or leave, but those two improvements would go a long way to making this an absolute banger of a watch, and it's already a good watch. If you are in the market for a beta, if you're in the market for a holiday watch, I think this is really, really good value. Perfect for holidays because of the water resistance, because you've got a bezel which can do a little bit of timing. You don't have to worry about it getting scuffed or anything like that at this price point, and it's going to do everything you want. And it's also super, super easy to read. So this is a massive thumbs up from me, this watch. Always like to have one of these in my collection. If you like the look of this and you are even slightly considering it, I would say go out and get it now. It's a great little watch.